The galaxy had been at war for centuries. No one could remember a time when the stars were not filled with the sounds of battle. The Silor Dominion, an empire of vast and ancient power, had once stretched across the galaxy, leaving their mark on countless worlds. The Dominion's fleet was unlike anything the universe had ever seen. Their technology advanced far beyond any race that dared challenge them, their weaponry devastating and precise, their tactics brutal and unforgiving. No species had ever stood a chance against them, until the coalition of star systems rose to oppose them, a loose alliance of civilizations scattered across the galaxy. The coalition had little in the way of superior technology, but what they lacked in firepower they made up for in ingenuity and unity. They had fought the Dominion for years, always on the back foot, but never giving up. They had found allies in unlikely places, from the brave but peaceful Goliath tribes, who fought with ferocity, to the Volteri, an insectoid race who had joined to defend their freedom. The coalition was a patchwork of species, but they shared a common goal: to stop the Dominion from enslaving the galaxy. The war had reached a point of stalemate. The Dominion could not break the coalition's lines, but the coalition could not push them back. The battlefield was filled with the wreckage of countless fleets, stars once bright now dimmed by the smoke of destruction. Entire systems had been shattered in the conflict, whole worlds left in ruins. The Galactic Council had begun to wonder if this endless war would drag on for eternity, if they would all be doomed to watch as their homes and cultures slowly crumbled under the weight of the Dominion's might. Amidst the carnage, a new force emerged, one that no one had expected, a race that had been absent from the galactic stage. For eons, humanity had been a quiet species living on a small blue planet at the edge of known space, their history filled with war and strife, but also resilience and growth. They had fought for their place in the stars, and now they had arrived. The leaders of the United Earth government made a bold announcement to the galaxy. They had joined the coalition and brought with them a weapon unlike anything the Dominion had ever seen. No one knew what this weapon was or how it would change the course of the war, but rumors began to spread of a ship so large, so powerful, that it could turn the tide of battle in an instant. Some whispered that it was a carrier, a fortress in space, capable of launching fleets with ease. Others spoke of advanced technology that had never been seen before, but no one knew for certain. All that was known was that humanity had sent a signal, a challenge to the Dominion, a declaration that they would no longer sit idly by while the galaxy burned. Humanity had entered the war, and they brought with them the Talon of Earth, a name that struck fear into the hearts of those who heard it. But even the most seasoned commanders of the Dominion thought little of this new threat. Their spies had yet to confirm the power of the humans, and they believed their victory was still assured. The Silor Dominion had seen many races come and go, but never had they faced an unknown force like humanity. The Dominion's leaders dismissed the humans as little more than a nuisance, but little did they know that the Talon of Earth was about to change everything. As it made its way toward the front lines, the galaxy held its breath, wondering what would happen when the humans and their legendary Supercarrier finally arrived. Humanity's announcement shook the galaxy to its core. No one expected a species from such a distant and relatively unknown corner of the universe to suddenly rise up and challenge the Dominion. The galaxy had watched as civilizations were crushed under the boot of the Silor Empire for centuries, but Earth was different. They were a young species compared to the ancient races of the galaxy, yet they carried a strength and resilience that was undeniable. Their world had been ravaged by war, poverty, and conflict, but they had emerged from their struggles stronger and more united than any one race might have expected. The United Earth government was a strange entity to the other species of the galaxy. Their society was based on cooperation and peace, but their military had been forged in the fires of past wars, with enemies that had threatened their very existence. Humanity had learned quickly how to survive by adapting and innovating, finding ways to do more with less. But now they were about to reveal their greatest achievement. The Talon of Earth, the Supercarrier, was a marvel of human engineering, a massive ship that dwarfed anything the Dominion had ever encountered. It was said to be capable of carrying entire fleets into battle, while being almost impervious to enemy fire. Its weapons systems were unlike any other, and its sheer size and power could turn a battle in an instant. No one knew how Earth had managed to build such a vessel in secret, or what other secrets their government might be hiding, But one thing was clear: humanity had come to the galaxy, not as a footnote, but as a force to be reckoned with. As the Talon of Earth approached the heart of the galactic war zone, its presence alone caused a ripple through the military forces of both the Coalition and the Dominion. Neither side knew what to expect from this mysterious new player, but both knew they could not afford to ignore them. The Coalition forces were nervous but hopeful. They had seen their struggles stretched to the breaking point, and now with humanity's involvement there was a glimmer of hope that they could finally turn the tide against the Dominion. But even the bravest of Coalition leaders had no idea what kind of power they were truly dealing with. Meanwhile, the Dominion saw the Talon of Earth as a potential threat to their dominance, but they did not take it seriously. At first, their scouts reported back with information about humanity's ship, but their commanders dismissed it as an isolated anomaly, no different from any other new race that had entered the conflict over the years. They believed their technological superiority would crush whatever humanity could bring to bear. The Dominion had faced countless challenges over the centuries and had crushed them all in their arrogance. They underestimated what the humans had accomplished in secret. The Talon of Earth made its first appearance on the galactic battlefield in the outer reaches of Coalition space. The ship emerged from hyperspace with the force of a thunderstorm. Its sheer size was staggering. The ship's hull stretched beyond what the sensors could measure. At first, the Dominion's commanders believed it was a trick of the light or a miscalculation, but as the Supercarrier fired its first salvo of weapons, the entire fleet of Dominion warships quickly realized the truth: humanity was here, and they had brought with them a weapon of unimaginable power. The Talon of Earth launched its attack without hesitation. The first blast from its main cannon shattered a Dominion destroyer into debris. The shockwaves rippled through the space surrounding the battlefield, and the sound of explosions filled the air across the galactic transmission lines. Coalition forces watched in awe as humanity's ship effortlessly began to tear through the Dominion's fleets. Humanity had arrived with a force no one had ever anticipated. The moment the Talon of Earth dropped out of hyperspace, the galaxy seemed to pause. Its arrival was like nothing anyone had seen before. No heralding flare of light, no grand display of energy or advanced technology. Just a massive, imposing shadow stretching across the dark expanse of space. The Supercarrier, a monstrous creation unlike anything the Scilor Dominion had ever encountered, stood as a silent testament to humanity's resolve. It was a city in the stars, a fortress capable of laying waste to fleets with a single strike. At first, the Dominion believed it to be a mere scout ship, a prelude to a much larger force. They had seen new races come and go, their so-called ultimate weapons, nothing more than dust in the wind once the Dominion's war machines rolled across the battlefield. But the Talon of Earth was different. The sensors could not even begin to register its full size. It was larger than any space station, larger than entire Dominion battle fleets. The ship was a fortress in its own right, a place where entire armies could be housed, where wars could be fought from within its steel walls. When the first blast of its weapons cut through the dark void of space, there was no denying it. The Talon of Earth was no ordinary ship. It was a leviathan of war. The Scilor fleet, already spread thin from years of conflict, was forced to react. They scrambled their forces, sending their elite warships to face the new threat. But the Dominion had underestimated humanity's ingenuity. As soon as the Talon of Earth fired its first volley, the battle had already shifted. The Dominion's warships, expecting to face another Coalition cruiser or even an experimental ship, were met with a force they had no means to counter. The energy cannons on the Talon's hull erupted, tearing through the first wave of Dominion ships with ease. Their shields, once thought impenetrable, flickered and failed under the onslaught. The Talon of Earth was relentless. Every shot fired was a calculated strike, its firepower so precise and deadly that the Dominion fleet struggled to organize any meaningful counterattack. But it was not just the Talon's firepower that shook the Dominion to its core. Humanity's tactical mind was just as formidable. The Supercarrier's commander, Admiral James Harrow, was a master of strategy. From the Talon's command center, he orchestrated every move of the battle. His orders were swift, clear, and above all, effective. He understood the Dominion's weaknesses, knew how to exploit them, and used every advantage to decimate his enemies. As the battle raged, Dominion commanders found themselves reacting to human tactics instead of leading the fight. The Talon was not just a weapon. It was a force that changed the very nature of the war. The coalition forces, watching from a distance, could hardly believe what they were seeing. A new hope began to swell in their hearts. For the first time in years, they saw a real chance to push the Dominion back. The arrival of humanity and their incredible supercarrier had done what the coalition could never achieve on their own. It had given them an advantage, a fighting chance. In the wake of the Talon's destruction, the Dominion's once immense confidence began to crack. They had always believed themselves invincible, but here, before their eyes, was an entirely new kind of enemy, one they had never anticipated. The first wave of the battle was over, and the results were undeniable. The Talon of Earth was more than just a ship. It was the beginning of a new chapter in the Galactic War, one that would see humanity rise to its place in the stars. The initial shock of the Talon of Earth's arrival quickly transformed into a deep sense of urgency within the Xylor Dominion. For centuries, the Dominion had reigned unchallenged, their fleets cutting through the galaxy with the precision of a surgeon's scalpel. But the appearance of the Talon, a ship of unimaginable size and ferocity, had torn through their carefully constructed image of invincibility. The Dominion could no longer pretend that humanity was just another insignificant race. Inside the Dominion command ships, the leaders gathered in tense silence. The central control room hummed with the steady pulse of activity as alien officers scrambled to assess the damage. The reports were grim. Hundreds of ships destroyed, entire battalions wiped out in mere moments, and a supercarrier of unparalleled might still on the battlefield. Commander Vorak, one of the Dominion's highest-ranking military minds, slammed his fist on the table. "This must be an illusion," he muttered, his voice strained with disbelief. "This ship cannot be real. No species could possess the means to construct such a vessel, let alone fight with it. It's a trap." But the data was undeniable. The Talon was no mere bluff. It was real, and it was unlike anything they had ever encountered. To the Xylor Dominion, the situation was clear. They had underestimated humanity, and the price of that mistake was being paid in the wreckage of their fleets. In the dark recesses of the Dominion's war rooms, plans for a retaliatory strike were hastily drawn up. The Dominion's first response was one of arrogance. They sent in their most elite warships, the ones equipped with cutting-edge technology and high-level commanders. The Xylor knew that to deal with this new threat, they would have to employ their best tactics, overwhelming the human supercarrier with sheer numbers and concentrated firepower. They dispatched their most formidable forces, expecting that the weight of their technology would crush humanity's supposed advantage. The Xylor commanders had always prided themselves on their unmatched weaponry, energy shields that could withstand devastating blasts, weapons that could annihilate fleets in a single strike. But what they had failed to consider was the unpredictability of humanity. The Talon of Earth wasn't simply a ship of war. It was an extension of human ingenuity and will. As the Dominion fleet moved into position, the Talon stood at the center of the battlefield, its weapons primed and ready. Admiral Harrow watched the unfolding battle on his tactical display, his mind working faster than ever before. The Talon had taken the brunt of the Dominion's first wave, but now it was time for humanity to show what they were truly capable of. The Dominion launched a barrage of coordinated strikes, hoping to overwhelm the supercarrier, but the humans had prepared for this moment. The Talon shifted its position with an agility that defied its size, dodging and weaving through the incoming fire with surprising precision. The Dominion's advanced targeting systems, honed through millennia of warfare, couldn't account for the human instinct to adapt, to think outside the box. On the bridge, Harrow gave a single command: deploy drones. In a flash, the skies were filled with thousands of small, agile drones, human-made sentinels capable of distracting, disabling, and disrupting enemy systems. As the Dominion forces rained fire on the Talon's hull, they found themselves facing an unrelenting barrage of smaller, faster-moving targets. The Dominion's warships struggled to adjust, their weapons systems overloaded by the constant disruption. In the chaos, Harrow seized the opportunity. The Talon's main cannons roared to life again, unleashing a wave of destruction that tore through the front line of Dominion ships. Their shields cracked under the force, their hulls buckled, and within moments, entire destroyers were disintegrated into starry dust. The Dominion had underestimated humanity's will to survive, their ability to think creatively under pressure, and the relentless pursuit of victory. As the Supercarrier tore through the heart of the Dominion's forces, it became clear that this was no longer a conflict between two sides. It was a challenge to the very foundation of the Dominion's reign. Humanity was here to stay, and they were not going to be intimidated. With every destroyed Dominion ship, the galactic balance shifted further. The Talon of Earth had become not just a symbol of power, but a rallying cry for every race in the galaxy still fighting for freedom. As the Dominion commanders scrambled to regroup, they realized that the Talon was not just an enemy to be fought. It was a harbinger of a new era, one where the Silor Dominion might no longer be the galaxy's rulers. The battle for the galaxy had reached a turning point, and the tide was shifting in ways no one had predicted. The Talon of Earth had become more than just a weapon of war. It had become a symbol of humanity's unyielding spirit, a force that defied the odds with every confrontation. The Silor Dominion, once confident in their technological superiority, now found themselves scrambling to keep up with an enemy they had underestimated. The Dominion's relentless advance had slowed, and for the first time in centuries, the balance of power was in question. Humanity was not just fighting for survival, they were fighting for something greater. The Talon of Earth and the fleets of the Coalition rallied behind it, showing the galaxy that even in the face of overwhelming adversity, humanity's will was a force to be reckoned with. The human soldiers, driven by a shared desire to protect their homes, fought with a passion that could not be extinguished. Their tactics were unconventional, their strategies unpredictable, and their resourcefulness unbounded. Admiral Harrow stood at the command center, his eyes focused on the battle unfolding before him. His mind raced as he coordinated the movements of the Talon and the Coalition forces. The Dominion, though powerful, were no longer acting with the certainty they once had. They were reacting, and that was humanity's greatest advantage. Harrow knew that to defeat the Silor, they had to break their confidence, disrupt their systems, and continue to hit them where it hurt. Every victory, no matter how small, had to be used to build momentum. The Talon of Earth fired its weapons once again, the energy blasts ripping through the Dominion fleet. But this time, it wasn't just the firepower of the ship that caught the Dominion off guard. Humanity's ground forces, trained in guerrilla warfare and swift, decisive strikes, descended upon the Dominion supply lines and military outposts with startling efficiency. Earth's soldiers were everywhere, infiltrating, sabotaging, and disabling the Dominion's vast infrastructure. They were not just fighting a conventional war, they were breaking the Dominion's will to fight. Humanity's ingenuity began to shine through in every corner of the conflict. Earth's engineers, who had designed the Talon, now turned their attention to disrupting the Dominion's communications and logistics. Using advanced hacking techniques, human specialists infiltrated the Dominion's secure networks, causing chaos across their fleets. The Dominion, masters of technology in their own right, now found themselves locked in a war on two fronts, one in the stars and another in their own systems. It was a war of attrition, one that drained their resources and strained their once invincible hold on the galaxy. As the Dominion scrambled to maintain control, they realized they were losing more than just battles. They were losing their very sense of superiority. The Silor had long seen themselves as the pinnacle of evolution, their dominance unquestioned for eons. But humanity, with all its flaws and imperfections, had proven that even the most advanced empires could be toppled by sheer willpower and the drive to protect their way of life. The Dominion's arrogance had blinded them to humanity's potential, and now they were paying the price for underestimating a species that refused to be silenced. The Talon continued to carve a path of destruction through the Dominion's ranks, but it was more than just the firepower of the Supercarrier that turned the tide. It was the unity of humanity, the collective determination of a people who had survived their darkest hours and emerged stronger than ever. The coalition forces, once fractured and hesitant, now fought alongside Earth with renewed vigor, inspired by the courage and ingenuity of their human allies. As the Dominion's grip on the galaxy began to slip, a new hope spread throughout the coalition. What had once seemed like a hopeless struggle was now within reach of victory. Humanity had not just changed the course of the war, they had transformed the galaxy itself. The future was no longer dominated by the Xylor Dominion. The galaxy now belonged to those who fought with heart, with determination, and with the unshakable will to win. The momentum had shifted irrevocably in humanity's favor. After months of relentless warfare, the Dominion had finally begun to show signs of faltering. The Talon of Earth and its supporting fleet, now battle-hardened and unified under the command of Admiral Harrow, had struck blow after blow at the very heart of the Xylor Dominion. Entire sectors once under Dominion control had fallen to the coalition, their defenses broken by humanity's firepower, ingenuity, and tactical genius. The Dominion, once a force that seemed invincible, now found themselves scrambling to hold on to what little they had left. Commander Vorak, still leading the war effort for the Dominion, watched as his fleet's once pristine formations became fragmented, each fleet struggling to fend off the growing human presence. Every counterattack they launched ended in failure, every strategy they devised falling short against the adaptability of the humans. The longer the war dragged on, the more the Dominion's once great empire began to unravel. The very systems they had taken for granted, communications, logistics, even their war strategies, were being undermined by human sabotage and precision strikes. Inside the Talon of Earth, Harrow felt the weight of the war pressing down on him, but he remained resolute. Every battle, every victory, brought humanity one step closer to securing their place in the galaxy. But he knew that this fight wasn't just about the Talon. It was about every human soldier who had fought and died for the freedom of the galaxy. It was about every species that had joined the coalition, driven by the same desire for peace and independence from the Dominion's cruel rule. The time had come for the final push. Harrow knew that the only way to bring the war to a decisive end was to strike directly at the heart of the Dominion. At the core of their power, their leadership, deep within Dominion space lay their central command hub, a massive space station orbiting a star so distant and dangerous that few dared to venture near it. It was here that the Dominion's high command operated, making the decisions that shaped the fate of the entire galaxy. Destroying it would cripple the Dominion's ability to fight and send a clear message to the entire galaxy that humanity had come to stay. As the Talon made its way toward the heart of the Dominion, Harrow ordered the fleet to prepare for the final assault. This was it, the last chance to end the war and free the galaxy from the Dominion's tyranny. There would be no retreat, no turning back. The Talon's vast array of weapons was primed and ready, and humanity's resolve had never been stronger. But even in the face of such power, Harrow knew the risk was enormous. The Dominion would not go down without a fight. The space around the central command station was thick with Dominion warships, elite fleets that had been held in reserve for this very moment. The Dominion, desperate to stop the Talon, had gathered every resource they could muster for a final stand. But they were too late. The Talon was already moving into position, and Harrow's voice rang out across the comms, rallying the forces behind him. Charge! With that single word, the final phase of the war began. The Talon and the coalition fleet surged forward, their combined firepower overwhelming the first wave of Dominion defenses. The battle was fierce, as Stylor ships engaged with everything they had left, desperate to protect their last stronghold. But the overwhelming power of humanity's combined forces, the ingenuity that had defined the war from the beginning, could not be matched. One by one, the Dominion's warships fell. their once imposing presence fading into the void. The Talon of Earth reached the heart of the Dominion's power. As it prepared to fire its final strike on the command hub, Harrow's thoughts went to the countless sacrifices made by humanity and their allies. The war was almost over, but the cost had been great. The Dominion's power had been broken, their leadership shattered, but the galaxy had been forever changed. Humanity's arrival had been the spark that ignited this revolution, and now, as the Talon fired its final blow, the galaxy would know that Earth was not just a footnote in the stars. It was a force that would never be ignored again. The Talon of Earth's engines roared as it propelled itself toward the heart of the Dominion's power. The final assault was underway, and with every passing moment, the outcome of the war grew more certain. The Dominion's elite fleet had assembled in a desperate attempt to defend their command hub, but they were fighting against more than just weapons. They were up against the sheer will of humanity, an unstoppable force that had been forged through years of struggle, loss, and determination. Admiral Harrow's face remained impassive as the battle unfolded before him. Every decision had led to this point, the final reckoning. His mind worked in overdrive as he coordinated the movements of the Talon and its accompanying fleets. He knew that this would be the hardest battle they had ever fought, but he also knew that humanity had something the Dominion could never understand: a unity forged in adversity and the unshakable belief that freedom was worth any price. The Xylor Dominion's warships, sleek and deadly, closed in on the Talon from all directions. Their weapons fired with unrelenting precision, hoping to cripple the Supercarrier before it could strike the final blow. But Harrow's tactics were beyond what the Dominion had expected. The Talon was no mere ship. It was a symbol of humanity's innovation, a marvel of engineering that could fight smarter, not just harder. The Talon's defensive systems were a masterpiece of human ingenuity. Its shields deflected the Dominion's energy blasts, while its own weapons tore through enemy ships with ruthless efficiency. Yet it was not only the firepower that kept the Talon in the fight. It was the human ingenuity behind every maneuver. Harrow's mind worked as fast as the ship's systems, anticipating every move the Dominion made, countering their attacks with surgical precision. The human fleet was relentless, pushing forward with single-minded determination. As the Talon bore down on the Dominion's central command station, the full scale of the Xylor's desperation became apparent. Their command hub was a fortress, an enormous station brimming with the last of their military leadership and technology. The Xylor had thrown everything they had into its defense, but the Talon was unstoppable. Admiral Harrow stood at the center of his command, a quiet resolve on his face as he prepared for the final strike. His crew, equally steadfast, awaited his command. The fleet around them closed in, a wall of destruction waiting to deliver the final blow to the Dominion's shattered forces. "Deploy all remaining fighters," Harrow ordered, his voice calm yet filled with purpose. The fighters, the heart of the human assault, surged forward, their sleek forms darting through space with deadly intent. The Dominion's forces scrambled to retaliate, but they were already on the defensive. The battle had turned in humanity's favor, and there was no escaping the inevitable. The first wave of fighter jets descended on the Dominion's command hub, tearing into its defenses with pinpoint accuracy. Explosions rocked the massive station as the fighters targeted key systems, communications, shields, power sources, all vital to the Dominion's ability to fight back. The Talon's cannons fired in unison, unleashing a devastating volley that shattered the remaining defenses. The heart of the Dominion's empire, the last vestige of their control over the galaxy, was now vulnerable. Harrow's voice cut through the chaos, steady and unwavering. "Prepare to fire the final shot." The Talon's main guns powered up, their energy surging with lethal intent. The weapons, capable of obliterating entire fleets, were now aimed at the very core of the Dominion's command hub. The fate of the galaxy hung in the balance. In one final, blinding moment, the Talon unleashed its full might. The blast tore through the Dominion station with unimaginable force, collapsing its shields and sending shockwaves through the fabric of space itself. The command hub erupted in a massive explosion, the remnants of the Dominion's once unstoppable empire disintegrating in the blink of an eye. Admiral Harrow exhaled slowly, his hand steady on the command console. He had seen the war's devastation up close, and while the victory was hard-won, it was undeniably theirs. The Dominion's heart had been destroyed. Their leadership was no more. The war was over. For the first time in what felt like an eternity, the galaxy was at peace. Humanity had risen from the ashes of their past, had faced a power unlike any they had ever encountered, and had emerged victorious. The talent of Earth had done what no one thought possible. The galaxy would never be the same, and humanity had cemented its place among the stars. The explosion that tore through the Dominion's central command hub sent shockwaves rippling through the galaxy. It was a moment that would be remembered for millennia, a symbol of humanity's indomitable spirit and their refusal to be ruled by anyone. The last remnants of the Xylor Dominion crumbled into space, their once great empire reduced to nothing more than a smoldering ruin. The Talon of Earth and its fleet, bloodied but unbowed, had secured victory. In the aftermath of the battle, silence filled the void of space. The once vibrant pulse of Dominion-controlled sectors now lay still, their vast infrastructure shattered. Admiral Harrow stood on the bridge of the Talon, his eyes fixed on the distant wreckage of the Dominion stronghold. The weight of the moment hung heavy in the air. The war was over, but the true challenge had only just begun. The galaxy was free, but it was also fractured. The power vacuum left in the wake of the Dominion's destruction was vast, and Harrow knew that peace was fragile. The Coalition had proven itself on the battlefield, but now it would have to prove itself as a force for unity. Status report. Harrow's voice cut through the quiet. His officers worked swiftly, bringing up the latest data. The fleet was intact, though battered from the final assault. The Coalition's forces, made up of various species, had sustained losses, but the cost was far less than what the Dominion had faced. Harrow's thoughts turned to the fallen. Many had given their lives to bring an end to the war. Earth had led the charge, but it was the bravery of every species in the Coalition that had turned the tide. Harrow understood that humanity's victory wasn't just a victory for Earth, it was a victory for all those who had stood against oppression. As the Talon drifted through the wreckage, messages of triumph echoed across the galaxy. The Coalition's fleets, once hesitant and disjointed, now stood as a unified front, a symbol of what could be achieved when disparate peoples came together for a common cause. The message was clear. The galaxy would no longer be ruled by a single power, and no one species would ever again dominate the stars. In the aftermath, representatives from across the galaxy began to gather on neutral ground. The age of the Dominion had ended, but a new age was dawning, one built on the principles of cooperation, respect, and shared responsibility. The first summit of the new Galactic Council was convened, a historic moment for all those who had fought for their freedom. Admiral Harrow, though weary, stood before the gathered leaders of the Coalition, his eyes meeting those of every representative in the room. He had fought for Earth's survival, but now his responsibility was greater than ever before. The fate of the galaxy rested on their ability to forge a lasting peace. He understood the complexities of the challenges that lay ahead, rebuilding shattered worlds, ensuring that power never again consolidated in the hands of a single entity, and healing the divisions that had once kept the Coalition from uniting. But as he looked around at the faces of his allies, he saw hope. Humanity had proven itself capable of more than just survival. It had shown that even in the darkest times, it could rise above. The scars of war were fresh, but the potential for growth was even greater. "We've won this war," Harrow began, his voice steady, "but our true victory lies in what we do next. The galaxy is ours to shape. Let us make it one where all species stand as equals, where tyranny is nothing more than a distant memory." The room fell silent, and for a moment, there was nothing but the sound of the universe stretching out before them, a universe that was finally free. Humanity's legacy, forged in the fire of war, would be one of hope, resilience, and a future where the stars belonged to all who dared to reach for them. The battle was over, but the work had only just begun. The galaxy had been changed forever, and humanity stood at the center of a new dawn, a dawn that promised a future of peace, cooperation, and endless possibility.